Welcome to Inside East African Politics. Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep into some, well, fascinating and frankly, pretty head-scratching reports about Uganda's massive gold discovery claims. We've pulled together articles, research, analyses. It paints a really complex picture.
Yeah, it really does. And our mission today is basically to sift through all this for you, help you get a handle on the claims, the skepticism around them, which is pretty intense, and also the potential opportunities, but the significant challenges Uganda is facing too.
Absolutely. We'll look at those huge headline numbers, maybe the strategic thinking behind putting them out there and what it all could mean, not just for Uganda, but potentially for the global gold market and, dynamics right here in East Africa.
Right. So where do we start? Those numbers, I guess.
Yeah, the ones that grabbed all the headlines.
Yeah.
Uganda announced finding, over 31 million metric tons of gold ore?
And from that, they estimated something like 320,000 tons of refined gold could be extracted.
And the claimed value, just casually pegged at over $12 trillion.
Which is, you have to put that in context.
You really do.
The total amount of gold ever mined, like in all of human history, is around 187,000 tons. So Uganda's claimed refined potential is way, way more than all the gold currently above ground globally.
Exactly. And the U.S. Geological Survey, they estimate maybe 54,000 tons left underground worldwide. So this claim is nearly 6 times that.
It's huge. Unsurprisingly, expert analysts looked at the implied gold grade you'd need to get those numbers and just said, well, words like impossible or insane were used.
Right, because rich mines usually yield maybe 7 to 10 grams per ton. This suggests something vastly higher.
Far higher. And analysts pointed out, look, if this amount of gold were real and hit the market, it would basically crash the global gold economy.
Okay, but the government spokesperson did sort of clarify later, didn't they, saying these were initial reports aimed at attracting miners, investors.
They did, which leads to the question, could such inflated claims actually backfire?
That's what I was thinking. Does it risk undermining credibility with the serious long-term investors you'd actually want? Seems a bit risky.
It absolutely could. While drumming up interest is one thing, reputable investors need verified data. These kinds of huge unverified numbers might actually scare them off or attract maybe more speculative types, which potentially worsens existing governance issues.
Speaking of which, even if the scale is debatable, Uganda's government is making a big push to process whatever gold they do have domestically. President Museveni was quite vocal, calling exporting raw minerals criminal, basically.
Yeah, and that's baked into their new law, the Mining and Minerals Act 2022. The key thing here is Uganda wants maximum local value. So the act bans unprocessed exports, mandates local refining, sets up a state mining company.
Right, with a mandatory 15% stake in large mines and strong local content rules, too.
Exactly. And you see this reflected in projects like the Wagai Gold Mine and Refinery. It's a big Chinese-backed plant designed to process significant amounts right there in Uganda.
Okay, but connecting the dots, this push for refining capacity, it also ties into Uganda's, let's say, established role as a hub for illicit gold, doesn't it? Especially from the DRC.
It certainly seems linked. Uganda's official gold exports shot up to, $2.3 billion in 2023?
Yeah, a huge number.
A massive number. And it far exceeds known domestic production. So it strongly suggests a lot of that processed gold is coming from elsewhere, often illegally.
Which brings us to the corruption challenges our sources really highlight. Uganda doesn't rank well on global corruption indices.
No, it doesn't. And you see reports of sophisticated smuggling, even suggestions of military involvement in moving illicit minerals, a history of scandals.
Didn't the U.S. Treasury sanction a major Ugandan refinery back in 2022 precisely because of this illicit trade?
They did. And this whole environment, weak governance, illicit flows, it makes things complicated, not just for big players, but also for the huge artisanal and small-scale mining sector. That sector provides livelihoods for many, but it's plagued by environmental damage, mercury pollution, safety issues, land conflicts. The new act tries to address formalizing it, but high costs are a big barrier.
It really sounds like a complex web where official policy kind of meets this messy, unofficial reality on the ground.
Precisely. And it's interesting, if you step back and look across Africa, Uganda's big focus on gold sort of contrasts with a broader trend.
Awesome.
Well, while gold exploration might be slowing in some traditional areas, there's this surging global interest in critical minerals. Stuff needed for green tech, batteries, electronics.
Like rare earths, copper, lithium.
Exactly. And many African nations are pivoting towards those. Interestingly, our sources show Uganda itself has quietly boosted its own exploration spending
Oh,
massively.
yeah?
Yeah, like nearly tenfold. And apparently 81% of that spending is going towards rare earths, not gold.
Huh. So maybe a dual strategy. Loud noises about gold, but quietly positioning on critical minerals, too.
It could be a way to attract immediate attention with gold while maybe playing a longer game with minerals key to the energy transition.
Yeah.
But whatever the mineral, this whole situation raises that classic risk of the resource curse, doesn't it?
Right, the paradox where resource wealth can actually lead to slower growth or more conflict if governance is weak. Can Uganda avoid that trap? So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean for you as you think about this? We've got this jaw-dropping $12 trillion gold claim.
Met with very strong expert skepticism, calling the numbers basically impossible.
Then there's Uganda's clear strategy to refine locally, using new laws like the Mining and Minerals Act to push for state participation and value addition.
But that sits right alongside Uganda's role as a known hub for illicit gold, especially from the DRC, tangled up with deep corruption challenges that could undermine everything.
And we touched on that interesting contrast, the public gold focus versus a quieter, maybe strategic pivot towards critical minerals fitting into wider African trends.
Which really leaves us with a crucial question, doesn't it? Given the, let's say, ambitious scale of the claim, the skepticism, and the very real governance issues, can Uganda actually turn whatever mineral wealth it truly has, gold or otherwise, into genuine, sustainable prosperity for its people? Or does it risk just digging deeper into those problems of corruption and illicit trade?